Hi, I'm Corky Davis with HealthNetConnect here in Michigan in the United States, and today I want to share a few moments with you to demonstrate some of the features and benefits of using our telemedicine solutions and products. A number of years ago we decided to develop this product, and our thought was there would be a huge gap between the number of baby boomers retiring and the number of care providers remaining stagnant or perhaps even decreasing. And so how do we close that gap? And one of our thoughts was, let's get our patients more involved in their own care. So what we do is we send a patient home with a number of hardware pieces of equipment that we have produced for their needs. One being a touch screen monitor. This is a medical PC, and the patient is taught how to navigate through this as easy as using an ATM. We also send the patient home with a number of patient vitals devices to measure their vitals. For example, if we have a diabetic patient, we would send them home with a glucometer. I have a glucometer right here, and all of our devices are wireless. So the patient would have this, and they would simply put a strip in the top of this, and I'm going to actually do that for you right now. And then they're going to lance their finger and put a small drop of blood on the end of that. And then what happens is, I'll just kind of hold this up and share with you what we do. It starts to count down. And we tell the patient, when the blue light's flashing, it's time to touch the screen. So this screen you see on your screen is covering their entire screen. And then they simply touch the screen where it says blood glucose, and it sends their results within a matter of seconds. Now, the great thing about this is your physician can be on the other side of the world. So I'm sitting here in Michigan, and my endocrinologist could now log into my electronic medical record and take a look at what my blood glucose reading was 5 seconds ago. And that comes into play in a number of very important ways that we'll cover in a few moments. Perhaps we'll take a look at a quick pulse oximetry reading. All of these devices are the same. We kind of created them so if you're a 75, 80-year-old adult who's never navigated a PC, it doesn't really matter. All you have to do is know how to turn a power button on and how to touch a screen. And again, we'll do a pulse ox reading. And I'll just have one of my assistants here take their pulse ox for us. And they're doing the reading, and it'll take maybe 10 seconds or so for the reading to display. And again, we tell the patient, once that reading is displayed, what they'll do is they'll touch the screen, this time where you see the little pulse oximetry button on the screen. So now our patient is touching the screen, and within maybe 5 seconds or so the results will send, and it'll say that the results sent successfully. Again, perhaps my cardiologist is in the Middle East and I'm in New York. They can look at this immediately and assess my results. These tests go on for a number of different morbidities. The major chronic disease states that we like to measure, that we think are most important, are low-hanging fruit in terms of patients readmitting unnecessarily in hospitals, are diabetes, CHF or heart issues, and COPD, lung pulmonary issues. So we have a number of devices. You saw our 2-in-1 glucometer. It's also a blood pressure gauge. That's why we call it 2-in-1. Pulse or a spirometer. And then you saw the pulse oximeter. We also have an ECG. This is a 1 or 12 lead ECG that the patient uses simply by putting their finger on 2 leads, the other 2 leads on their chest, and hitting the start button. And we'll share some of those results with you in a moment as well. We additionally have a scale, ultrasound, microscope cameras, and so forth. All right, so we've done this. We're measuring our patients' morbidities, and we're looking at their vitals on a daily basis. And then we say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to join in a virtual house call with you. In this case, we'll say our patient is Bob, and we want Bob to join us in a virtual house call. And there's Bob. Hi, Bob. Bob has joined us. He's at home. He's been taking his vitals every day. I am his physician. And in addition to that, I can bring in up to 20 other colleagues to help me consult with Bob today in our virtual house call. So perhaps I have a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, a primary care physician. I may have a nurse or another family member. Anybody involved in Bob's care we wish to join us in this consultation, we can do so, and it doesn't matter where in the world they're located. So that cardiologist in New York, endocrinologist in LA, primary care physician here in Michigan, and we can take care of Bob's needs at any given time. So the first thing we want to do is let's look at how Bob's been doing. And you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen charts and graphs. These are things I'm going to share with my patient Bob and my colleagues, and so we can all be on the same page. Now you'll notice some red dots. Those red dots basically tell us we've gone beyond limits that we wanted to. For Bob, on the right-hand side, you see I've set his limit values at 140 for systolic, 90 for diastolic, 120 for glucose. So if any of those readings are higher than the numbers I set for Bob, it tells me, it gives me a red flag, and those are the red dots you see. So right now I've highlighted, and I see at 2:44 in the afternoon, Bob, your systolic was at 166, and maybe this just happened yesterday. So it gives me an opportunity now to triage this before it gets out of hand and Bob shows up in the emergency room and readmits. So I can say, Bob, you know what, you were doing really well, but you were at 166 yesterday. What happened? Did you take your meds? Did you just finish chasing the dog out the door prior to taking your reading? Did you eat breakfast? Were you exercising? All those things I need to do, I might be able to adjust their meds right now on this call, write a new script, and have Bob literally get it delivered to his door today or tomorrow morning. And all of this allows us a very important function, and that is avoiding Bob's readmitting at the hospital. Billions and billions of dollars every year are lost by our hospital systems due to unnecessary, unreimbursed readmissions. And you know, the basic value here is that if a patient discharges from a hospital and then readmits, shows up at the hospital within 30 days for any associated issues, the hospital isn't reimbursed at an average cost of readmission of $29,000 on a cardiac patient, for example. That's substantial, and literally millions and millions and millions of dollars are lost every day in our hospital systems due to unreimbursed readmissions. Beyond the 30 days, we look at payers and insurance providers who lose millions and millions of dollars because somebody readmitted and perhaps they didn't need to. So in this case, I'm looking at Bob's numbers, and I'm asking him, and we're interacting, and we have all of his specialists involved, and I can address issues before they get out of hand. I may want to look at Bob's ECG reading. Perhaps Bob just discharged from the hospital last week. He had a cardiac event. I sent him home and he is nervous. He just had a heart attack, and he doesn't know exactly what's going on, but he gets a little chest pain, and maybe it's just an anxiety attack. Maybe his meds need to be adjusted just a little bit more Coumadin, or perhaps he's not eating the right food and there's some indigestion. Bob is paranoid. He's going to show up in my emergency room in 20 minutes, readmit, and go through a series of tests, and then we find out, ooh, yeah, it looks like you had a little anxiety attack. Instead, what I can do is Bob can immediately send me an ECG from home. As you see here, I have an ECG, and I can go through this with my cardiac specialist. I can bring in special second opinion colleagues from around the world. We'll all look at Bob's condition. We'll look at his ECG. We'll make some assessments, maybe take a look at his pulse oximetry reading and adjust his meds. Maybe we do ask him to come in, but at least we're informed and we're prepared when he arrives. And certainly his outcomes improve dramatically. By sending a patient home with our telemedicine solution, we find between 20 and 70% reductions in readmissions, substantial savings, obviously, in the bottom line. But even as important to that is to Bob, his patient outcomes improve by over 50%. So we see our patients getting better, more educated in their morbidities, and frankly, we're saving money as well. Some of the other applications for our product, one is maybe it's not a chronic condition. Perhaps this is an acute condition, and Bob broke a bone, and he is going to physical therapy. I want to talk to Bob. I just got his x-rays back, so I'm going to share with Bob his x-rays. And I'm going to say, you know, Bob, I mean, here's where we're at. You hurt yourself right here where we're pointing, and I want to focus your physical therapy in a couple of areas over the next 60 days. So we're going to focus in this area, and I want you to do some stretches and focus on your lower back so we can keep that strengthened for your recovery as well. Literally any kind of a file you can imagine can be shared in our virtual clinic. So if I want to share an MRI with Bob of his brain, or with second opinion colleagues and neurologists around the world, I can do so. I can look at ultrasound that was taken in my patient's home, perhaps a high-risk mother. I can literally share any file with anyone I need to around the world in our virtual clinics. This also works for virtual rounds when we deploy these bedside. So there are a number of applications. One of the applications to consider is distant patient monitoring. When we get into outside of very advanced areas of medicine in big cities, into countries where there are just a few large teaching hospitals and then remote clinics and villages who have hardly ever see a PCP or a primary care physician, let alone, say, a cardiologist. Now I can take the finest cardiologists in the world, maybe at a teaching hospital in a major city 100 or 200 miles away, and allow them to examine our patients in a remote clinic or a remote village. This unit we send home with a patient literally operates in a number of ways. One is SIM technology. So as long as we can get a cellular signal, we can do everything we're looking at right now in the field. So we may be in the middle of the ocean, we might be in the middle of the desert, and it will still function perfectly for us. This is a great way to improve efficiencies, to spread the wealth in terms of physician specialists and being able to share them around the world. It's also a great opportunity for us to be able to take a look at how we monitor patients at a greater distance who are not near a great recovery center where they may be taken care of. Other items that perhaps we can take a quick look at, we talked a little bit about ultrasound. We have ultrasound that we send a patient home with when, let's say, they're a high-risk pregnancy. We put them in bed and we say, don't get out of bed at all, don't move. But once a month, get out of bed, run down the stairs, get in your car, drive on the expressway for an hour and a half, sit in our lobby, risk perhaps picking up some other kind of cross-infection, have us examine you, and then reverse that process and go back home. What if instead we have that patient literally stay in bed like they're supposed to, and we deploy our telemedicine solution, the Video Doc by HealthNetConnect, and we take a look at their vitals daily, and we do a virtual house call once a week and ask that patient to hold the ultrasound probe on the right areas, and we examine the patient, we look at the fetus, and we take a look at how our patient is doing at home in the comfort of their home without all the stress of travel and related ambulatory issues. There are a number of other applications we can look at, like EMS deployment, because it's portable and cellular, being able to triage a patient immediately, looking at military deployment. So we have a patient, a soldier down in the field somewhere, and a medic who is basically just stopping bleeding, but now we've been able to bring in a surgeon from Bethesda Naval Hospital, looking face-to-face at our patient, examining that patient, and walking the medic through simple surgery and how to triage the situation to save lives and to spread the wealth in terms of our physician specialists as well. Finally, maybe we take a look at microscope cameras and other applications where we can look at dermatology. We can examine patients for wound care and wound recovery. So we take a microscope camera like this, and I can literally use this now to look at my patients, perhaps diabetic, and they're at home and they're going through some wound recovery. Now I can do a very close examination of that patient, and perhaps what I'll do is I'll reach in my pocket and pull a dollar bill out, and maybe we'll bring that up on the screen in just a moment. And then we'll be able to take a look at lesions, at wound recovery, and so forth as well. So that's one of the other applications we can look at. Now, one of the things we looked at with our microscope camera is neurology. We have neurologists using this now in the field, and they are using it to remotely examine stroke patients. So we have the stroke unit located maybe 100 miles away from the nearest neurologist. The neurologist is carrying this in his briefcase in our hospital system, and they can immediately pull over the side of the road, remote access into the clinic, and take a look at that patient, that stroke patient who's just admitted, and make an assessment as to whether or not there is a need to order an MRI or certain meds or whatever else it may be, and triage the situation before they can get there. So I'm just showing you a little detail here on a dollar bill, so you get some feeling for the kinds of details we can get when we're looking at constriction and dilation in pupils, drooping and motor skills reaction for the patient, and so on. So there's another option we like to look at occasionally in terms of patient care as well. And of course, for dermatology, this is a great application as well. I could go on, but frankly, I think you have a good overview of what our system does. It literally allows you to touch your patient wherever you are in the world, wherever your patient is in the world, and to take care of them in real time, to assess their needs, to advance triage any issues. So we start to look at well care for chronic conditions and to basically target that patient in a way that as if they were in your clinic face to face. Bring in second opinion colleagues from around the world, and really this is the future of medicine. And we hope that you'll join us in being a part of the future of medicine, and feel free to give us a call and we can follow up with you and see how we may fit your needs. Thank you again.